Ah, look who just stumbled into the truth. Welcome back, you beautiful chaos agents, you silent warriors, you ghosts they thought they buried. I've been waiting for you, because something just happened, didn't it? Something cracked open. Someone slipped. Someone got drunk on their own arrogance and let the mask fall just long enough for you to see what was always underneath. And now you're here, pulse racing, mind spinning, trying to make sense of what you just learned. Let me save you some time. Everything you suspected? Every paranoid thought you dismissed as overthinking? Every time you felt like something was off but couldn't quite name it? You were right. You were always right. They leaked it. Not intentionally, of course. They never do. But somewhere between their false confidence and their desperate need to brag, someone in their circle couldn't keep their mouth shut anymore. Maybe it was a text screenshot. Maybe it was a conversation overheard at exactly the right moment. Maybe it was a former ally who finally grew a conscience or just wanted to watch them burn. However it happened, the information is out now. The whole blueprint, the entire strategy they've been running against you for months, maybe years. And you know what the sickest part is? It's worse than you imagined. Because you thought maybe, just maybe, you were being paranoid. You thought maybe you were reading too much into things. But now you have proof, cold, undeniable. Screenshots don't lie proof that they coordinated against you, that they planned your isolation, that they weaponized people you trusted, that they turned your own vulnerability into ammunition. And the question burning in your chest right now is simple. Why? Why you? Why this much effort? Why this much energy devoted to one person? I'll tell you why, but you already know. Because you scared them. Not with violence, not with threats, not with anything external. You scared them with your potential. You scared them with your refusal to stay down. You scared them with your ability to see through the masks everyone else believed. You represented something they couldn't control, a variable they couldn't predict, a force they couldn't manipulate with the usual tactics. So they did what cowards always do when they encounter something they can't dominate. They conspired. They organized. They built a cage out of lies, rumors, manipulated narratives, and strategic isolation. And they smiled in your face the entire time. They asked how you were doing while actively sabotaging your peace. They offered support while secretly celebrating every time you stumbled. They played the role of friend, ally, mentor, partner, while the whole time, behind closed doors, they were plotting your downfall like you were some kind of threat to national security. Let's talk about what you found out. Let's get specific because generalities don't do this justice. You discovered they had group chats. Multiple group chats, with names like situation management or keeping an eye on things, or some other sterile corporate terminology that made their malice sound professional. You found out they shared your private conversations, things you said in confidence, moments of vulnerability you shared, thinking you were safe. They screenshotted your words, stripped them of context, and passed them around like evidence in a trial you didn't know you were on. You learned they coordinated their responses to you, decided together how to react, what to say, when to pull back, when to apply pressure. Every interaction you had with them wasn't spontaneous. It was calculated, rehearsed, part of a larger strategy you weren't supposed to figure out. You were playing checkers while they were playing psychological chess with a team of coaches watching from the sidelines. And the gaslighting. Let's not skip over the gaslighting, because that might be the most criminal part of all. When you started sensing something was wrong, when your intuition was screaming that things didn't add up, they made you question your own perception. They called you paranoid. They said you were overthinking. They suggested maybe you needed help, maybe you were stressed, maybe you were projecting your own insecurities. They weaponized therapy language against you, turned your self-awareness into a character flaw, made you feel crazy for noticing patterns that were absolutely real. And now you have proof those patterns weren't in your head. The conspiracy you felt was an actual conspiracy. The setup you sensed was a legitimate setup. Your intuition was sharper than their deception. But they almost convinced you otherwise. They almost made you doubt the one thing that could have saved you earlier, your own gut instinct. That's what makes this unforgivable. Not just what they did, but how they made you feel insane for seeing it. Here's what they didn't count on, though. They didn't count on the leak. They didn't count on their own circle being full of people just as fake as they are. Because here's the truth about people who conspire together. They don't actually trust each other. They're all just using each other for their own agendas. So when the opportunity came for one of them to gain something by exposing the others, or when the guilt finally outweighed the loyalty, or when they just got sloppy and careless, the information spilled out. And now you're holding it. Now you're staring at messages that confirm everything. Now you're reading conversations where they laughed about your struggles, where they celebrated your failures, where they coordinated their next moves against you like military strategists planning an invasion. And the rage you're feeling right now, that's not just anger. That's validation. That's your soul screaming, "I told you so," at every part of yourself that tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. But let's go deeper, because we need to understand the psychology behind what they did. These people, they weren't acting out of strength. They were acting out of pure, concentrated fear. Fear of what you represent. Fear of what you're capable of. Fear that if you reached your full potential, their mediocrity would be exposed by comparison. See, they needed you to fail, not because your failure gave them anything tangible, but because your success would have revealed how much they were coasting, how much they were faking, how much their confidence was just performance art covering up deep inadequacy. You were the mirror they couldn't stand to look into. So instead of dealing with their own reflection, they tried to shatter the mirror. They tried to break you before you could show them what they really were. And for a while, it almost worked. For a while, you questioned yourself, doubted your worth, wondered if maybe they were right about you. Let me tell you what was really happening during those moments of doubt. While you were crying, they were celebrating. While you were questioning your sanity, they were congratulating themselves on a strategy well executed. While you were isolating yourself, thinking you were the problem, they were high-fiving each other for successfully making you believe their lies. Every tear you shed was a victory to them. Every moment you spent wondering what was wrong with you instead of what was wrong with them was exactly what they wanted. They needed you to turn inward, to attack yourself, to become your own worst enemy. Because as long as you were focused on fixing yourself, you weren't focused on exposing them. As long as you believed you were broken, you wouldn't realize they were the ones who were defective, damaged, operating from a place of such deep insecurity that they had to coordinate group attacks just to feel powerful for 5 minutes. And now the masks are off. Now you've seen the messages. Now you know who said what, who initiated what, who went along with what, even though they claim to care about you. Now you're looking at people differently. That friend who always seemed supportive? You found their message suggesting ways to undermine your confidence. That mentor who acted like they wanted you to succeed? You saw where they advised others on how to limit your opportunities. That partner who claimed to have your back? You discovered they were reporting your every move to people who were actively working against you. Every relationship you thought was solid has cracks now. Every memory you thought was genuine is tainted. Every moment you believed was real now feels like a performance you weren't aware you were watching. And the grief you're feeling? That's normal. You're mourning the people you thought they were. You're grieving the relationships you believed you had. You're processing the death of a reality that never actually existed. But here's where we shift. Because yes, what they did is criminal. Yes, the betrayal runs deep. Yes, you have every right to feel devastated, furious, violated. But you also have something they never accounted for. You have the truth. You have evidence. You have ammunition. And most importantly, you have a choice about what to do with all of it. This is the moment that defines everything going forward. This is the fork in the road where you decide who you become after betrayal. Do you become bitter? Do you become vengeful? Do you let their poison turn you into a version of yourself you don't recognize? Or do you take this information, process it, and use it to build something they never saw coming? A version of yourself so untouchable, so evolved, so far beyond their reach that their entire plan becomes irrelevant. Not because you forgave them, but because you outgrew the need for their destruction to feel powerful. Listen carefully. Revenge is easy. Revenge is what they expect. They're probably already preparing for it, already crafting their victim narratives for when you expose them. They've got their excuses ready, their justifications lined up, their own counterattacks planned. They want you to come at them directly because that keeps you engaged with them. That keeps you in their world, playing their game, operating on their frequency. But what if you did something they can't prepare for? What if you took all this rage, all this pain, all this betrayal, and transmuted it into fuel for a transformation so profound that you become unrecognizable? What if you used their betrayal as the catalyst to become exactly what they feared you'd become? Not a victim screaming for justice, but a force of nature that doesn't need validation, doesn't need acknowledgement, doesn't need anything from them because you've built a reality where they simply don't matter anymore. Here's what I mean. They conspired to keep you small, so become large. Not loud, large. Not performative, expansive. Build something so impressive that their whispers become white noise. Create something so valuable that their attempts to undermine you look pathetic in comparison. Develop skills so sharp that their sabotage can't even reach you. They wanted to isolate you? Use that isolation to go so deep into your craft, your purpose, your evolution, that when you emerge, you're operating on a level they can't comprehend. They tried to turn people against you, build new connections with individuals who actually have substance, who operate with integrity, who don't need group chats to coordinate basic human decency. They attempted to destroy your reputation, build a body of work so undeniable that your results speak louder than their lies ever could. This is how you win, not by destroying them, but by making them irrelevant to your story. But I'm not going to lie to you and pretend the betrayal doesn't sting. I'm not going to feed you some spiritual bypass about forgiveness being for you, not them. Right now, you're allowed to be furious. You're allowed to feel the full weight of what they did. You're allowed to acknowledge that what they did wasn't just mean or petty. It was calculated evil. It was sustained, coordinated psychological warfare against someone who trusted them. That's not something you just brush off with positive affirmations and deep breaths. You need to feel this. You need to let the rage move through you. You need to sit with the fact that people you cared about were actively working to harm you. Because if you skip this part, if you jump straight to forgiveness or moving on without processing the depth of the violation, it'll just show up later in uglier ways. You'll become suspicious of everyone. You'll sabotage genuine connections because you're still carrying unprocessed betrayal. You'll attract similar situations because you didn't learn the lessons this one came to teach. So let's extract the lessons, because that's the only way this wasn't a complete waste of your time and energy. Lesson 1. Your intuition is sharper than you've been giving it credit for. Every time you felt something was off, it was off. Every time you sensed duplicity, there was duplicity. Every time you questioned someone's motives, your questions were valid. The lesson isn't that you should have trusted your gut sooner, although that's part of it. The lesson is that your gut is a highly sophisticated detection system that picks up on incongruence, inconsistency, and inauthenticity, even when your conscious mind is trying to rationalize it away. From now on, when that feeling shows up, you don't ignore it. You don't talk yourself out of it. You investigate it. You honor it. You let it guide your decisions, even when you can't immediately explain why something feels wrong. Lesson 2. Not everyone deserves access to you. The people who betrayed you, you let them in. You shared your dreams, your fears, your vulnerabilities with them. You gave them ammunition without realizing they were collecting it to use against you later. The lesson here isn't to become closed off or cynical. It's to become selective. To understand that intimacy, real intimacy, is earned over time through consistent demonstration of character, not through shared history, not through charming personalities, not through impressive credentials or social status, through repeated evidence that someone handles your trust with care, that they don't gossip about you to others, that they celebrate your wins genuinely, that they challenge you from a place of love, not competition, that they respect boundaries and communicate directly. These are the criteria, and anyone who doesn't meet them doesn't get the real you. They get the version of you that's appropriate for acquaintances, friendly but not vulnerable, present but not available for exploitation. Lesson 3. Groups lie. I don't care how tight a friend group seems, how long they've been together, how much they claim to have each other's backs. When groups form collective opinions about an individual, especially negative ones, there's almost always an agenda behind it. There's someone leading the charge, someone planting seeds, someone who benefits from the group turning against that person. And everyone else just goes along because humans are tribal, and going against the group consensus feels dangerous even when the group is wrong. The lesson is to be extremely skeptical of collective judgments. When multiple people suddenly have a problem with someone, especially when that someone is you, ask yourself, who started this narrative? Who benefits from this perspective? What information might be missing or distorted? Because more often than not, group consensus is just mob mentality, dressed up as shared concern, and the people participating in it feel justified because they're not acting alone. They're reinforcing each other's worst impulses and calling it solidarity. Lesson 4, and this is crucial. The people who smile the biggest often hide the sharpest knives. The ones who are overly friendly, overly helpful, overly interested in your business? Red flag. Genuine people don't perform kindness. They just are kind, in quiet, consistent, unglamorous ways. They don't announce their loyalty. They demonstrate it through actions over time. They don't need to constantly remind you how much they care, because their behavior speaks for itself. But performative people, they need the display. They need witnesses to their goodness. They need credit for being supportive. And often, that performance is covering up the exact opposite energy. They're overly nice to your face because they're actively hostile behind your back. They gather information under the guise of caring. They position themselves as confidants so they can later use what you tell them against you. The lesson is to trust consistency over intensity. Trust the friend who shows up in small ways repeatedly over the one who makes grand gestures occasionally. Trust patterns over promises. Now, let's talk about what happens next, because you can't just sit on this information forever. You have to make decisions. The first decision is whether to confront them, and I'm going to give you advice you might not want to hear. In most cases, confrontation is pointless. Not because you don't deserve answers. You absolutely do. But because people who are capable of this level of betrayal are also capable of lying directly to your face, rewriting history,